I always thought infidelity was something that happened to other people, until that night, when everything changed. Why would you claim you love your partner only to then break their heart? Jason is the love of my life, and nothing would make me break his heart like this. Until I saw Daniel. My name is Sandy. What I'm about to tell you started in 2022. One night changed my life forever. Jason can never know what I did. The truth would destroy him, but I need to get this off my chest, because if I don't, I might slip again into the arms of my husband's nephew, and it may be worse this time. I met Jason on Bumble, after a series of very nasty dates. Funny, I had told myself that he would be the last person I'd be going on a date with from the app. My first 3 blind dates were horrible, and I had next to no positive expectations for this one. But Jason, this calm, gentle, soft-spoken bundle of joy, changed it all. I felt something from the first text. His approach was different, and seeing him for the first time, in the t-shirt and pair of denim pants, neat, shaved and beautiful, I knew this was it. Our first date was the stuff of dreams, you see, like one of those perfect romance stories that began beautifully. He made me laugh with ease, respected my opinions, listened and spoke at the appropriate time. Jason was my man, and I knew from that night. Sometimes I stay up at night staring at him sleeping like a baby, and I know they don't make men like him anymore. Jason's perfect in every sense of the word. Although I have always known this, always saw him for the perfect man that he is, you will be surprised what certain awkward situations can make you forget. I thought I never wanted anybody else, but everything was about to change. I don't believe in marriage, all that pomp and pageantry just to get heartbroken all over again. But I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this man. I wanted to bear his last name, to be with him till my last breath. It was that serious. So when he proposed in an exotic restaurant in Barcelona, I could not say no. We got married soon after the proposal, but just in court. Jason did not want anything big, neither did I. We went to court, read our vows, shed some tears, signed whatever documents they needed us to sign, and ended the day in the bar with friends. This was my ideal kind of wedding. No flowers or unrealistic fairy tale romance, and just 2 saying their vows in the presence of people that matter, ending the night getting drunk in a bar. Our wedding experience started from our wedding night. I can still remember that night like it was yesterday. Sometimes I think about that night and I almost tear up. The intensity of the intimacy was like no other. The intensity of our lovemaking, the strokes, the bonding, the quivering, the words, the extra vows, the prayers initiated by the intensity of the strokes. I was transfigured that night, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. Jason took me and made me his. How did we let this perfection slip away, Jason? How? Marriage is the best thing that can ever happen to anybody. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Having someone to support you, to cheer you on, to build with you, is the true essence of life. Jason and I built our lives together. He was the manager of one of the biggest banks in the state, and I was a real estate agent. We complemented and completed each other. So well, it was easy for either of us to make decisions for the other. That's how beautiful we were. Oh, don't get me wrong. We are still like this. But there's a limit to an individual's pretense, and my pretense has gotten to its breaking point. Now, you would ask me, amidst all these perfection I have told you about, what happened to bring me this low? Well, tragedy happened. Things started to fall apart when Jason lost his job. Benefits, savings, everything, in one fell swoop. He was caught at the center of a fraudulent activity in the bank. Not because he knew anything about it, but because he was the manager and the bank needed to punish somebody for the amount of money they lost. The bank took everything. Our house, froze his accounts, our cars, except my beat-up Toyota. They made sure they roped him deeply into the crime that going to court would be futile. We went from top of the food chain to bottom before we could even blink. Well, there was love, and of course our little joint savings. My pay was based on commission, so no sale, no pay, and almost like the universe was against us, I was unable to sell a house. Not even one. The bank gave us 1 month to sort ourselves out and leave, and in that 1 month, nothing sensible happened. We had only one option, and that was to move back to Jason's parents' house as push had come to shove. Just when I thought this was the worst things could get, I met Daniel. Jason was one of those children nobody plans for. He was the last of 4 siblings. His older siblings were really old. I think the age difference between him and his immediate elder sister was almost 14. He even had nieces that were almost his age. But they were a beautiful family, welcoming and thoughtful. When Jason's parents heard about what happened to us, they were quick to prepare a room for us and asked us to stay for as long as we wanted. It was a little sad for Jason, coming back to his old room and all, but his parents' love and the love from his immediate older sister that lived across the road from their parents was enough to help us settle. After settling well, Jason went out in search of a job. After many rejections, he was able to get one as a salesman for a car dealership. The pay was nothing compared to what we had, but it was an honest start. I also got a job in a real estate firm like the one I had, selling houses and getting paid on commission. Things were beginning to look up for us. We were even able to go on dates. Jason even tried getting a place, but his parents persuaded us to stay. If only we had gotten a place and moved, what happened would really not have happened. Daniel is Jason's only nephew. He was the first child from his immediate older sister. The 18-year-old was wild, with arms like a wrestler and a model's face. He was fine, I mean. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this 18-year-old boy was the finest boy I had ever met in my life. No, Jason's handsome, no doubt, but Danny had an appeal to all of my senses, to all of my being. He appealed to all of me. Danny would come around to help his grandparents around the house, and we would talk for hours. Jason was almost always out of the house selling cars or attending one success-based conference or the other. I became very comfortable with not Jason around, and got even more comfortable with Daniel around, although I did not think at the time that we were developing something for each other. Daniel looked too innocent for that kind of thing, or so I thought. Things started to take a rather drastic turn when I started anticipating Danny's coming over. My mother-in-law even noticed. She would taunt me with Danny being my second husband and all, but even in that seeming play, I knew she was sounding a warning alarm, and she was sounding it as loud as her weak lungs could. She couldn't stop Danny from coming over because he was their sole source of help around the house, and she could not talk to him anyhow, as that would imply he was really flirting with his uncle's wife. He knew he was doing that, but I'm sure Danny would have been offended if his actions were termed for what they were. The innocent conversation took on sprinkles of flirting, until the flirting became resounding, both on physically and on Instagram. And guess what? I was hooked on it. The less I saw of my husband, the more I craved Danny's attention, and oh, was he there to give me that attention? Jason really wanted to leave where we were. He wanted to climb the corporate ladder as fast as he could. And he was doing well. From a salesman, he had risen to the manager of the sales team. However, for some very weird reasons, we were still at his parents' house. Did I ever complain? I don't think I did. I was really comfortable there. And there was the Danny factor too. I had left my husband emotionally and was hooked on his nephew. But he had no idea. How could he, when he was out always, traveling from one state to the other, trying to sell cars or get distribution contracts? Somehow, he was at fault also. He actually was. But I would not talk about how he left me starved of intimacy, how he would come home late and just sleep off without telling how his day went, or bother to ask how mine went, how he would go for dinners and leave me at home all by myself, how even on weekends he was going to see one client or the other. I knew he was not cheating on me, but he was. He was cheating me of everything that marriage was all about because of money. He left me open, vulnerable, wanting to be seen, to be heard, and Danny saw me. He listened, he heard, and he comforted me emotionally. I knew I was not in love with him, but I craved him, and I'm sure he craved me too. The day we gave in to our cravings was one of the most extraordinary days ever. Jason and I had a fight that morning, and he left the house angrily to work. It has been over a month now, and he has not touched me, just a weak kiss and a tired hug. I wanted him to make me feel like a woman again. But no. Instead, he storms out of the house. His parents, noticing the foul mood I was in, called for Danny's mother to take them for their monthly appointments at the hospital. I was home alone now, angry at the house, craving what I could not have, and just almost depressed. I was still in the room when I heard a knock on the front door. It was Danny. I remember I almost jumped into the young man's arms. He was just the person I wanted to see. Even before he made himself comfortable, I began telling him everything. The fight we had, how angry I was, and all that. I did not tell him why Jason and I fought, though. I guess he figured out. He listened calmly while fiddling with the stereo player. Danny picked Boyz II Men's classic CD. Jason's parents still had DVD players in their house at the time, and played I'll Make Love to You. Sandy, hush. Let's dance. I remember I was still fuming when Danny said those words, and I lost it. I became quiet immediately and fell into his arms. We danced slowly till the song stopped and played again. The atmosphere was choked with desire, and I could feel it. As the song started again, he brought my head up, looked me in the eye, and planted the softest of kisses on my lips. I can still remember how dazed I was, how much I wanted him, and here I was, having him finally. Danny's lips stayed on my dazed lips for a while till, breaking off the surprise, I kissed him back, and the desire escalated like fireworks on the 4th of July. While this may be hard for me to admit, Danny did things to me that day that I would never forget in my life. His young body took me, thrilled me, broke me into bits, and made me his. He used every part of his body to please me. His index finger, tongue, mouth, hands, every part. We were so in sync that day that we forgot the house was not ours, that we forgot time. Danny and I were in my room now. I was on all four while he pleasured me from behind, and I moaned with every bit of me. It was so intense that we did not hear Danny's mom's car pull up, so intense that we did not hear Jason's dad open the door to my room. I raised my head up, still in ecstasy, and found Pop Pop standing there with surprise and disappointment written on his face. In that instance, pleasure turned sand in my mouth. Danny up and stood at the corner of the room, his head down, his hands covering his now flaccid. The wrinkles on his face became more prominent as his disappointment turned to anger. And after standing there for a while, he stormed. Danny wore his clothes and ran off, leaving me on the bed, half pleasured and confused as to what would happen next. That was the last day I saw him. I knew my marriage was over. Even if Pop Pop did not tell on me, I knew he would not see me the way he did again. And that, above all else, broke me completely. Pop Pop did not tell Jason what he saw. He didn't even tell his wife. We stopped talking till Jason and I got our place and moved out. And that was a week after what happened. He was not hostile, he just did not want me around him. Jason began to come back home earlier. Intimacy followed. And somehow, he was able to ignite the embers of our relationship. Some days I wish Danny could come back, for us to at least finish what we did. Some days I regret ever doing what I did, especially when we bore our first child. I never wanted to do what I did. In fact, if I could turn back the hands of time, I don't know, maybe I would have done it again, or maybe not. If you want to see more infidelity stories, then click on the video you see now on your screen.